Yo, what's up everyone? How are we all doing? Back with another video. World War 1 Oversimplified Part 2.
Yeah, I'm excited for Part 2.
Oh, you know yesterday when we was talking about like how it just feels different to other Oversimplified videos?
Yeah.
That was the first video he ever made.
Oh, was
Yeah,
it?
everyone was saying in the comments, so it made a lot of sense why like there wasn't as many like, you know, he has that kind of niche sense of humour.
Yeah, it was a little bit different. It's okay.
Yeah, so that was his first ever video. I tell you what though, he smashed it for his first vid, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So is that why it's in two really short parts? Because
Yeah.
one seems to be longer.
I imagine like he hadn't had the process figured, so it was taking him super long to make these videos.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why it was a little bit different.
Okay.
But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed yesterday's video. Obviously, it goes without saying if you haven't seen part 1, go see part 1 first and probably come back to this. But you know, just like it while you're here, obviously. But yeah, let's get straight into it, man.
With both sides stuck in a hard stalemate, they knew this war wasn't going to be about taking territory, but about simply wearing each other down. The Allies had plenty of men to expend from its overseas dominions, and the British also started a naval blockade, so Germany couldn't import stuff, like food. Neither side really wanted a long, grueling war though, so they both thought of ways to break the deadlock on the Western Front. Idea number 1, new frontiers. When the war first broke out, Australia was quick to take German New Guinea. The Allies also quickly jumped on Germany's colonies in Africa, and particularly in German East Africa, locals were enlisted as soldiers and carriers by both sides, leading to a tragic loss of life for the native
Bad,
Africans.
really, isn't it?
Some new combatants entered the war as well. The Allies' new friends were Italy and Japan. Japan was busy building itself an empire, so it was more than happy to take away German islands and colonies in East Asia.
This is why like America had such a battle during World War II.
Yeah.
Because all these islands that America fought through. Shit, sorry.
Oh, Arnie.
Yeah, all these islands, America had to fight through all of these to get to Japan.
Right.
Like, Okinawa and all that. And that's why when they got here, because like the Japanese were so like, what's the word? Tenacious. And like just fearless, like they were just fighting to the last man.
But these islands look tiny.
They do look tiny, but obviously they're really strategic points for like the naval, like for the navy
so you've got to come in from
to
that
stop
way,
and
haven't you?
resupply. But yeah, because the Japanese were fighting to the last man, they realised that like if they launched a full-on invasion into like Japan, it would just take so many American lives. That's why they just dropped 2 atomic bombs.
They don't care if they kill themselves while they kill the Americans, do they?
No, they had the old kamikaze attacks and everything. And
Is that like a culture thing?
I think it has a lot to do with like the honour system.
Because like when you watch Hacksaw and they lose, he kills himself because he lost.
Yeah, the Japanese have always been. What would you say? It's like part of their honour system, or just deeply buried in their culture from probably as far back as the samurai.
Yeah.
Do you think at this point, you know, the samurai had been gone less than 100 years at this point? Do you know what I mean? So that whole art of Bushido was probably still quite big.
It's just very, very committed, isn't it? To think I'm gonna die, but as long as I take someone with me, it's fine.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Asia. Italy actually had an alliance with Germany and Austria-Hungary before the war, but after some tense relations, and then the Allies promising to give them some of Austria-Hungary's stuff, they switched sides. Italy opened up a front in the mountains here, but like everyone else, they were stuck in stalemate for most of the war. The Central Powers' new friend was a struggling empire in the Middle East. The Ottoman were divided on whether to actually join the war or not, since they had been exhausted by the recent Balkan Wars. Some of the politicians who did want to join went off on their own and fired some shells at Russia, and then came back and said, whoops, looks like we're at war now. The Ottoman entry into the war was of particular concern to the British, since the Middle East was full of oil, and Britain wanted all of that oil. First, the Ottomans tried to attack Russia in the Caucasus Mountains, but they weren't prepared for the cold, and many of them froze to death. Then they crossed miles of desert to take the Suez Canal from the British, but that failed too.
That's like a really important canal as well, because if you look, that's like a way into the Mediterranean through here.
Yeah.
And like, if you don't have that, then you have to go all the way around Spain and come in like that. So this was like a really profitable canal here.
Yeah.
Miles of desert
But
to
we
take
didn't
the
let
Suez
them
Canal
have
from
it.
the British, but that failed too. Then the Allies tried to take the Dardanelles at Gallipoli in a long and hard trench warfare campaign, but that also failed. The Ottomans blamed their initial losses on the ethnic Armenians living within Ottoman territory, and the resulting Armenian genocide led to the deaths of 1.5 million people.
That's quite interesting. Sorry, I keep pausing. Have you ever heard of the Armenian genocide?
No.
No one has, you know. It's very weird that it's like that's not well common knowledge.
What, like mass suicide?
No, it's like when the Turkish just killed all the native Armenians in the area. Just killed them all. We had a kid in our class who was Armenian, and I swear to God, I'd never heard of it. Like his name was Henrik, and he said I was from Armenia. I'd never heard of it, and he was just saying like, obviously I've done research since, but it was weird to actually hear it firsthand.
The resulting Armenian genocide led to the deaths of 1.5 million people. Then the Germans sent spies into Afghanistan to try to convince the Arab tribes there to rise up in jihad against the British and attack India. But that plan failed, partly because the spies got bored, brewed their own alcohol, and got drunk, which is a bad thing to do in Afghanistan. Overseas frontiers hadn't done much to change the war. Aware that the Allies had more men and supplies than them, the Germans knew they had to do something to break the stalemate. Before the war, there was a big conference that set out the rules of modern warfare. No chemical weapons, no killing civilians. Basically, don't be jerks. The Germans held a meeting and decided to be jerks. Zeppelin air raids commenced over British cities. They also started attacking the Allied trenches with chlorine gas, and they used submarines to sink civilian ships. One such civilian ship was the Lusitania, which had 159 Americans on board when it was sunk. Further swing...
Do you remember that when we done How Deep is the Ocean?
Yeah.
And it mentioned the Lusitania got drowned and it was longer than it was.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah.
The Lusitania, which had 159 Americans on board when it was sunk. Further swaying US opinion against the Germans.
America.
Not to be completely unfair to the Germans, the Allies also engaged in chemical warfare soon after, and they had been hiding anti-submarine weapons on their civilian ships, which let the Germans justify their attacks. Meanwhile, Austria-Hungary still hadn't dealt with Serbia, so the Central Powers enlisted some help. Bulgaria wished it was bigger and was still bitter about losing the Second Balkan War. The Central Powers promised to make all of Bulgaria's wildest dreams true if they helped, so they signed on, and together they knocked out Serbia. The Serbian troops retreated through Albania, which was neutral but had some ties to Austria-Hungary. So Austria-Hungary entered Albania in a friendly invasion to chase down the Serbians, many of whom escaped by sea. It's 1916, and a lot is happening. As if they didn't have enough enemies already, Germany added one more to the list. Portugal had been getting a bit chummy with the Allies behind the scenes, and Germany didn't like that one bit. Around the same time, the only sea battle of the war happened. Both sides had a new powerful class of battleships called dreadnoughts, but they were so expensive to build that neither side wanted to risk losing them in a battle, so they kept them in port, except for one time when they had a big fight and a bunch of them got damaged, so they didn't try that again.
That's the thing, isn't it? When you've got all this stuff and it's so expensive, and you send it out to war, and you just think, what, like...
Yeah, I mean, you build it for that purpose, but, the cost of... the cost of war is expensive, so as immediately as you go into war, you're already nearly bankrupt, you know what I mean, in some cases.
Yeah.
But,
I feel like it's like you'd make something so amazing though that costs you so much, you'd be like, I just want to save it for like last resort.
Yeah. I mean, this was a weird time at World War 1 and 2 because everyone was so evenly based. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying they're fair fights because Britain had a whole empire in there. Yeah. But everyone was sort of level militarily. To an extent, you know what I'm trying to get at.
Fighting similar kind of weapons to what you had.
Yeah, similar sort of supplies. And then, it wasn't until, America joined World War II that, America turned into the giant it was and kind of just ran off with it along with... Yeah. Russia's up there as well, but Russia's up here compared to everyone else, but America's, up.
Yeah.
The UK started conscripting men to the army, so they had plenty of reserves, which is just as well because the Western Front was about to get brutal. The longest and one of the bloodiest battles of the war started when the Germans launched an attack around the French city of Verdun. The French defended it desperately, leading to hundreds of thousands of casualties. Under pressure, the French called on its allies to do something to draw the Germans' attention away, so the British started their own long and brutal fight, the Battle of the Somme, with 60,000 British casualties on just the first day. It was also here that the British
60,000 casualties? You learned about the Battle of the Somme, didn't you?
Day.
I feel like everyone has to learn about Battle of the Somme.
Yeah, I do remember.
Yeah.
60,000 British casualties on just the first day. It was also here that the British first used one crazy brand new piece of sci-fi technology. The Russians had been getting pushed back further and further into their own territory, but in response to the French call for help, they began a huge offensive, and did really well until they ran out of supplies and got stuck. Seeing how well the Russians had been doing, Romania decided now would be a great time to jump in and win the war, and then they got pounded. The Greeks were fighting amongst themselves about whether to join the war or not. The king liked the Central Powers, while the Prime Minister wanted to join the Allies. After a brief national schism, during which the country split into two, the king finally abdicated and the country reunited. With Allied help, they began a new offensive. In the Middle East, Russia was pushing into Ottoman territory from the north. The British had also made a landing in Mesopotamia to protect Persia's oil fields. and they had also sent a small army up the Tigris River to try to take Baghdad, but the army got sieged in the town of Kut along the way, and eventually surrendered. A new offensive was launched from the south with all-out desert warfare. The offensive was aided by one famous British officer, better known as Lawrence of Arabia, who helped lead the Arab tribes in a revolt that wreaked havoc on the Ottoman supply lines. By the time 1917
Does this just remind anyone of the Battlefield 1 storyline? I don't know why, it just reminds me of it, like that whole desert scene and when you were fighting alongside Lawrence. I think it was. It was somewhat like that. It's been a while since I played it, but the storyline was like heavily based on that.
The Arab tribes in a revolt that wreaked havoc on the Ottoman supply lines. By the time 1917 rolled around, everyone was exhausted. There were mutinies in the French army, the German populace was starving, and the war had drained all of Russia's supplies. There was no clear winner, and it was still anyone's war. The only question now was, who was going to break first? And the answer was Russia. Tired of not eating, and mad that a crazy magic homeless guy was calling some of the shots, there was an uprising in Petrograd complete with riots and strikes. The riots turned into a full-scale revolution, and a new government...
Sorry, if we ever get round to doing the Russian Revolution, the first time I'd heard of Rasputin, I'd heard his name, but you know when you don't know whether he's heard his name. But then, obviously, we've done Oversimplified and we read into the communist uprising. Rasputin, the stories around him, you can't believe it's real.
Really? Like him as a person?
The amount of times people tried to kill him and he just wouldn't fucking die, and everyone... he was just a homeless guy in Russia, in Moscow, I think, and he managed to convince the was it a monarch at the time? I think it was a monarch. President, Prime Minister. I can't remember. Convinced him that it was magic. And he fucking believed him, and then was just
I'm a wizard.
Yeah, I'm a wizard. And then just started chilling around the palace. And then actually started making little movements of his own, and that it was
That's it?
Yeah, it's really fucking weird, man.
Oh my god.
I'm trying to remember what
kind of year was that though?
Around this
if it was
communist uprising. No, it's 1917. Sorry, I've got to Google it.
No. I was going to say though, for other people to believe that someone comes up to you and tells you that they can do magic or whatever, if it was maybe 17th, 18th century, you'd be like, oh, fair, people would believe it. But I feel like in 1917, you'd have more common knowledge than to believe somebody comes up to you and says, I'm a wizard.
1917. I got it right then, did I? I said that.
Yeah.
Hey, good man.
Tired of not eating, and mad that a crazy magic homeless guy was calling some of the shots, there was an uprising in Petrograd complete with riots and strikes. The riots turned into a full-scale revolution, and a new government overthrew the Tsar. Then a few months later, the Bolsheviks overthrew the new government, and they pulled Russia out of the war. This was great news for Germany, who now only had to focus on the Western Front. But there was still one problem. The pesky United States of America was looking increasingly like it was going to join the war. America had been selling supplies to the Allies throughout the war and was getting super rich off the back of it, meaning it was in fantastic shape and was dangerous to the Germans. So Germany sent a telegram to Mexico saying, wouldn't it be crazy cool if you guys attacked America? But the British intercepted the message, showed it to the Americans, and that was the final straw. American troops began shipping out to Europe. This was terrible news for Germany, and they knew their only hope now was to force France and the UK to surrender before the fresh American troops arrived. It was now or never, so they started one final attack. They converged their troops and hit hard at the Somme and pushed the Allies back. They hit a second time further north, then again and again. With each hit, the Germans were spending more and more resources.
You know, it's funny because it was around this situation in World War II that the Battle of the Bulge happened. It was similar. Just picture these, but as Nazis, and all these kind of the same flags with America in there as well. And the Germans just pushed and threw fucking 100 Panzer divisions through right here. It's called the Battle of the Bulge because their territory come out to here. But then the whole army was spent, so as soon as they got rid of them, it was just a straight march through the Rhineland.
Do you think in World War II they looked back at methods of World War I and thought, well, that worked, let's just try it again, but we'll try and do it better?
Kinda. So, Hitler wanted to avoid this sort of trench system that happened. So after this war finished, they set up the Maginot Line, the French, and there was we're going to put loads of defences here so that never happens again.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of forest called the Ardennes Forest, which is where's the Ardennes Forest? Probably about here.
Yeah.
And they left it undefended because it's loads of mountains and hills. And Hitler just smashed loads of divisions through here. and kind of went like that.
Okay.
And then he come all the way around here, and like the French and the English were stuck here, and that's where Dunkirk happened.
Yeah, I
And-
can't
and
wait
they
to
went
do World
across.
War II, you know.
Yeah, and then that's not what happened. Yeah, because in the Panzer divisions, they'd put like loads through here, and then loads through here, and they'd both circle around, so everyone in this little circle would be captured. And it was like really effective.
Converge their troops.
But they didn't have
Hard
the technology
assault
to do it
pushed
here
the
with
Allies
the slow
back. They
tanks.
hit a
Yeah.
second time further north, then again and again. With each hit, the Germans were spending more and more resources, while the Allies were getting better and better at repelling their attacks. By the fifth punch, the Allies held the line and even pushed back. With American troops now arriving in larger numbers, the Allies launched a counterattack, and that was it. The Central Powers were being pushed back on all fronts. Bulgaria collapsed first, followed by the Ottoman Empire, then Austria-Hungary, and finally on November 11th, 1918, at 11 o'clock, Germany surrendered. At the peace treaty, Germany was forced to reduce its military, accept war guilt, and pay the bill for the war. After indescribable suffering and millions dead, the world learned its lesson and never had such an awful war again. For about 20 years.
Remember doing the Treaty of Versailles at school?
Yeah, the Treaty of Versailles was...
See, that's what I mean when you asked me yesterday if I'd done like World War One at school, and I said I couldn't remember. I remember doing the Treaty of Versailles, but I don't remember learning any, like, you know, it's just certain specific things.
Yeah, the Treaty of Versailles was arguably one of the biggest factors which started World War One, if not, it started World War Two, if not the factor. Because they would have let Germany recover with, you know, some minor reparations to pay or whatever. Germany probably would have never had a need for Hitler or had that like sectarian divide in it. It's mad though. You know what I was thinking during the course of it? We're lucky that Germany, geographically, is where it is. Like if you imagine you chuck the German people, say here, and you put them, say, where Spain is, or even the UK, it would have been a lot easier for them to dominate Europe because they wouldn't have had to fight a war on two fronts, because this is what saves the Allies.
Because they're in the middle, aren't they?
Yeah, like they have to fight here, and you know, Italy is kind of like a non-fighter in these situations because it just jumps sides and whatever. But yeah, say though about like where Spain, where they only had to defend this, and then they could just push upwards through Europe. So we are kind of lucky that they are where they are.
Yeah.
But at the same time, other people probably say that about Britain because we want to fucking joined up with slavery. But yeah, let us know what you think. Oh my god, sorry, I've just seen this. This is about like the Chinese dynasties. That it is so complicated. It's unreal how hard that. Like these guys made me watch it.
Do you think I would be able to comprehend it?
I can honestly say, as cool as it is to watch, it's very hard to retain the information. Like I'd need to watch it again, and I don't know. It's not only the names, but it's the sheer number of names, and some people have names that are said 3 different ways. Do you know what I mean? And it just gets really out of hand. Hey, here's something that I wanted to ask you guys about, and maybe we're working our way through the Marvel films at the minute.
Oh yeah.
And we just finished Doctor Strange, and where are we up to? Thor Ragnarok's next.
Yeah, Thor's next.
What did you guys think of Black Panther?
I thought you can ask what did you think of Captain America.
Captain America. Oh, okay. I'm just going to say, Captain America: The First Avenger is one of the worst films I've ever watched. It was so bad. Like, the Winter Soldier's I liked the Winter Soldier. That was good.
Yeah, that was good.
But the First Avenger, I don't know what it was. I think it's.
You're a sucker though for inaccuracies.
Well,
you like historical things to be.
Like, it's not even that. It's just how shit the German soldiers looked was one thing. Like, I don't know. It just looked very shit, like aesthetically. I just weren't a fan of it, man. But I wanted to ask you guys about Black Panther because I watched it last night, and it's one of them films that it's how you watch it. Like some people will watch that, and I know they'd say that was a brilliant film. Like, you know, firm 8, 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
And some people will watch it and think, nah, 3, 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to make of it because it depends on how you watch it. Like, I feel like if I'd watched it and I was a black dude, I'd love it because I think, now I've got a superhero that looks like me. Because there's a lot more to Black Panther than there is other superheroes in that way.
Superheroes like that though.
No, but it was like the first front runner for like black superheroes. I know you had like the Iron Patriot and that, but like it was good to see like black people get a front running superhero.
Yeah.
But just the story, just the actual story of it was a bit like... It kind of had this underlying political tone to it.
I feel like it would have been better if he's could have... Because, you know, like, obviously they're just fighting, they're both the same when they're fighting. But it's like, because the other one was growing up in America, it'd be good if he snuck in some, like, extra kind of weapon. I feel like you could have done more with it than just fighting, having the same powers. One of them should have something a bit more...
Yeah, because that's the problem with having the Black Panther who's so good at fighting. The only enemy that you could have go at him in a one-to-one is another Black Panther. You know, or Captain America. Because when he shows up in Civil War, the Winter Soldier batters him. I think
there's a few that could batter him, though. I think Thor would batter him.
Yeah, but I'm on about, like, just hand-to-hand fighting.
Hulk would batter him.
Oh, yeah, of course. But yeah, sorry, we're getting wrapped up into it. But let us know what you guys think, you know.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with
I know, yeah, but I just wanted to get other... Because I felt left so in two minds about Black Panther. Like, because it did have, like, an underlying political tone to it, and I just couldn't shake it. I was like, I don't know how to feel.
So you read into film so much. I'll just sit and watch it and think, this is good. I'll watch it again. Yeah. Oh, that was shit. I won't watch it again.
Like, I get it, because... Michael B. Jordan's mad about like how black people have been treated around the rest of the world. But that's not the reason he's actually mad. The reason he's actually mad is because Black Panther's dad killed his dad.
Yeah, I hope you've all seen it, by the way, because this is mad spoilers.
Oh, shit. Yeah, spoiler alert, sorry. Oh, my bad. Yeah, it's been out years, man.
Yeah,
it came out like 2018. Yeah, but Uncle, spoiler alert. Fingy's dad died from Black Panther's dad. So a black man killed a black man.
Right.
And then had a black son who grew up to be mad at white people. I was like, why do you want... I don't get it. Because it was the underlying tone that he just hated white people, and I didn't really get where that stemmed from.
I thought he was just mad in general at them not sharing the technology that they had with the world.
No, he was, but he also mentions how they're leaving like they say our people, leaving other black people to like he kind of gets at the fact that black people are overpoliced in America and everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, but is that the reason you're mad, or are you mad because you didn't have a dad? Do you know what I mean? There was like...
Oh, right, yeah, I see what you mean.
Okay, sorry about that. I just wanted to get some other opinions on it. Probably going to get cancelled, I did like the film. Rest in peace, Black Panther. But, yeah, he died. But yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. Take it easy, man. Peace out.